Cool. Well, I'm super excited to be back on the show today. It's been a few weeks since we've recorded. We've been a little ahead of the game. So today, it was Thursday, I think the 15th. We got a super cool guest on here. One of my good friends I met many years ago. We just got together in Tulsa a couple weeks ago, had lunch, had a good time. Josh Eberth, he's a stud in the industry, been in the industry a really long time. He owns a company called Lawnovations out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. It is a sweet ass new shop. Like, it's beautiful. Like, for guys that haven't seen it, check it out. Jump online. It's super cool. I mean, his wraps on his truck are dope. Like, he's got a lot going on. I'm super excited to have you here. So thanks for joining us today, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. We've been trying to hook this up for a while now, and we finally did it. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it took me 6 months of begging the shit out of it. I said, Josh, just face it, you're coming out here whether you like it or not. And then finally in Tulsa over lunch, you agreed to it. It's funny, like that story that we had at lunch. We were sitting there. Yeah, I was just sitting there, and also a cockroach like literally just walks up as we're eating food. I'm like, well, that's the first for sure. But it was a really nice place. But I won't dog them on here. But yeah, it was good to get together. And again, a funny story. Josh didn't know I was in town. Or you might have knew I was in town.
Yep.
But didn't realize this was going to show up at a shop at 8:00 in the morning, unannounced.
No, not at all. I had saw you guys had posted a reel or something. I think I saw it on Facebook, and it said that you guys were in Tulsa knocking on doors, and I was like, in Tulsa? And then the next morning, you're banging on my door. I'm in the restroom, and I didn't even know anybody was out there. And then all of a sudden, I heard something. I check our cameras on my phone, and I see you out there, and so I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, and you were on the phone with another one of our buddies. He's like, "I actually think Jonas is here." Yeah, and that's how we ended up having lunch. I showed up at your shop, and I walked up to the door, and then there's a lady in the truck. I think he said it was your landscape manager, design manager, or something.
Yeah, our landscape designer.
And I was like, "Hey, is Josh here?" She's like, "Nope." And then you could just tell she wasn't giving me information at all. And she's like, "No, but can I help you?" I said, "Well, I'm just going to give his cell phone a call." She probably at that point realized we were friends or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, sounds good. And she left and took off. But
we sit right on a main interstate, I-44. So we get a lot of just walk-in sales traffic and things that, people find my name online or whatever it may be. And, half the time we got to keep that door locked just because it's a constant distraction. Most of them mean well, but, every now and then you get a scraggler walking through here that, kind of makes you nervous for your girls in your office. You don't want strangers just walking in these days.
Yeah, for sure. I guess so start out, just take us back, for everyone that doesn't know. A lot of us do know, just how you got in the industry and like where you started, what services you offered, and then kind of where you're at today. Talk us through like the new shop and the new build and how that was, and catch us up to speed.
So I started, kind of like a lot of guys, cutting grass when you're a kid, 12, 13, 14 years old. I remember we had, by the time I was probably 15, I grew up in a suburb here in Tulsa called Jinx. And it's just it's grown a lot. It's grown a whole lot. I mean, it's probably 5 times the size as it was when I was a kid back then. But, I just grew up knocking on doors, asking to mow people's grass during the summertime, like a lot of people. And then my family, we had this old 72 model Dodge truck. It was bright yellow. And I used to drive that thing around the neighborhood. Of course, I didn't have a license, but I didn't leave the neighborhood. And we're in a small town, kind of like Leave It to Beaver or something. And, I'd get my mower out of the back of that thing and just cut grass every day. And, it started like that. And then I continued to do it throughout high school. I would just, park my truck and trailer along the side of our house there in Jinx. And, I did it through high school and even cut a lot of grass for a lot of the teachers I had. If I was honest, I would even skip class a lot of times and go cut grass. And most of them, they'd kind of look past it because I was mowing all their yards as well, so they didn't really mind. And I just continued, once I graduated, I'd always said if I didn't play college sports, I would just continue to try to build my landscape company. And that's what I ended up doing. I got some small football offers from some small schools. But I didn't start playing football until I was a junior. I'd always played basketball. And I decided, I didn't want to go that route because Jenks High School is a very big football program, one of the biggest in the nation. I mean, we've turned out, probably at least a half a dozen NFL players and, dozens and dozens of college D1 players. So, our facilities are state of the art, top notch, and it was a pretty big step down to go to one of these smaller schools. So I just elected to continue to stay and try to build my landscape business. So I did that, and I second guessed it a lot throughout, the first probably 2-3 years, only because I was watching all my friends, in college at these big universities having fun and partying every weekend and, meeting girls and just, having the times of their lives. And I would still go, visit them from time to time on weekends a lot. Oklahoma State, both Oklahoma State and OU are an hour and a half, 2 hours from where I live here in Tulsa. So I'd go down and hang out and party with those guys on the weekend and then just come back and, do my thing during the week. But, once everybody started graduating college, a lot of those guys started asking me for a job because, they were either waiting tables or couldn't get on somewhere yet. And I thought, maybe I've got something, going here. I mean, even back in high school, I was making more money than my teachers were making, and here they're sitting here telling me that I need to go to college. And, I just elected not to because I really enjoyed doing the landscape thing. And back then it was mainly just mowing, just cutting grass, me and a couple guys. And then, probably 2 or 3 years into it, we had another truck and, just continued to grow through there. But, so once I had, probably 4 or 5 years under my belt with the lawn care, people, of course, start asking me, can you repair my sprinkler system? I've got a busted head. And we had a sprinkler vendor here in town that I became pretty close with, and they taught me a lot and how to do a lot of the things. And the guy that was their son, he's 3 or 4 years older than me, and he would even come out and show me some stuff. And then they started sending me irrigation jobs. And so we kind of started getting into irrigation and doing that sort of thing. And then, a couple more years go by and I get to bid my first commercial job. And that was pretty eye-opening right there. Because at this time, I don't know my head from a hole in the ground when it comes to budget or how to finance projects or anything. I just see the big number and think, man, I'm going to knock it out of the park. This is a $25,000 job, and in reality, it should have been a $50,000 job at best. So we get into this job and, if it weren't for my stepdad at the time that owned a directional boring company, and they traveled the country a lot doing directional drilling. So he had happened to be in town for a couple weeks. So he came out and helped us move a lot of dirt on this job, brought some of his loaders and things like that I needed. So he basically saved me from, going out of business, because this job would have put me out of business at that time.
So if you haven't heard about GorillaDesk yet, it's a super sick software. It's actually made by one of my really close friends, Chris Mareshi. So Chris built GorillaDesk to help streamline his own personal business over 10 years ago. But now GorillaDesk is used by over 4,000 companies. And today it's become one of the most premier platforms in our industry. So what's really unique about GorillaDesk is that it's a simple all-in-one solution that's really easy for your team to use. GorillaDesk offers a seamless onboard experience and best-in-class support with no additional cost. It's all included in your subscription. Inside the software, you'll find a whole suite of features: scheduling, invoicing, routing, and sales pipelines, integrated VoIP, text messaging, and pretty much all the automations you're going to need, and much, much more. So if you guys are still relying on paper or spreadsheets or fighting with an old software, I highly recommend that you guys check out GorillaDesk. So we have a link in our description. Click on that and it'll take you right to their free trial. Now let's get back to the show.
And it just went on for months and months. So that was a huge learning lesson in, figuring out how to do those projects, how to price them correctly, and not let the big older guys, because at this time I'm in my early 20s, and, they're telling me whatever it is, hey, I need to be at this number and I'll give you the job, wink, wink. And, of course, silly me, I believe them and we do it. And then, a month into this thing, things start changing. We had went in and put sleeves to all the islands throughout the parking lot. And then we find out that wasn't the final grade, and they were adding, 4 feet of elevation. And now all of a sudden we're trying to dig 9 feet down into the ground to find our irrigation sleeves. And it was just one thing after another. So that taught me a lot, how to bid or not even get involved in commercial landscaping, quite honestly. I try to stay pretty far away from it. But, we just kind of built on from there. And then, fast forward until probably 7 or 8 years ago, we started doing, there's a convenience store here in Tulsa. In fact, their home office is here. It's called Quick Trip.
We have them too. In our home office is in Wisconsin called Quick Trip, but it's spelled different.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I think nationwide they have around somewhere in the 1,000 store area. They're kind of right here in the Midwest. And I know they do a lot of stuff in North Carolina, South Carolina. But in the house we built in 2012, I meet a guy that lives across the street from me that worked for him. And we hit it off because I was born in Kansas City. Me and my mom was a single mom until I was 8 years old. And we had moved here from Kansas City. And so I'm a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. And this guy had, a big Kansas City Chiefs flag in his garage. So I get to talking with him, kind of become friends with him. And I just mentioned to him one day, saying, hey, I know you work in the corporate office. If there's ever opportunity or somebody I can talk to about maybe just bidding a few stores, would you let me know? And he said, sure. So I don't know, probably a couple months go by, and it may have even been the following season. I get a phone call from the guy that's over their facility management. So he calls me, and we turn in a bid. It's a little high, and they tell me, hey, can you kind of look at your numbers again? So I look at them and get the price where it needs to be within their budget. They give me a shot, and I think at that time they had gave us the opportunity to take on 12 stores because at that time they had been using, I believe, 3 separate companies to maintain roughly 85 locations here in the Tulsa market. So we get those 12, and I make sure that they are our number one priority because they take a lot of pride in their locations. I mean, you go in one, they're completely clean. The properties always look top notch. But years ago, and I mean, this may have been 15, 20 years ago, they had a single contractor that maintained everything. Well, that guy had, I think he got cancer or something and passed away. His brother tried to start taking it over, and it just didn't work out. I think he, maybe had some, don't quote me on this, but I think he had some maybe addiction issues or something from what I'd been told. And he ended up losing the account. And then these other 3 companies, they split it up amongst all of them. So then we, later on, one of those companies had fallen off or sold or something or another. And that was my opportunity to try to get my foot in the door. So I wanted to make sure that we made a great first impression and that, they realized how much we cared about having them as a client. And that's what happened. And then they gave me, I think, 10 or 12 more locations. And then I find out, this is years later. I don't know. This is probably 3 or 4 years ago. The guy that got me in with them, this is kind of a side note that's kind of funny. What was I talking to him about? I said something to him about the locations, and he said, yeah, I'm a nobody. I just work there. Well, then I find out he's like number 2 or 3 in the entire company. And I'm like, good grief, why didn't you tell me this from day one, So he's just a real humble guy, real modest. And so anyway, we end up, the guy that had originally hired me, he ends up retiring, I think this was 3 years ago now. And the guy that's going to take his place, of course, I'm pretty nervous about it because, as well as I do, when a new person comes on board, they're going to try to save money.
They have different relationships
possibly change things. And at this time, it's me and another guy taking care of these locations. And they decide that they're not happy with the other contractor. And this guy actually gives me a shot at, maintaining all of them. He says, do you think you can handle that? And I said, absolutely. I said, I've been, bugging Larry, the guy at the time. I've been bugging him to try to, let us have some more, but I understand why they, had been burnt going down that direction before. Well, the new guy gives me a shot. And like I said, that was, I believe, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. And we've been blowing and going ever since. And, that it's good and bad because it's a lot of eggs in that basket with it being such a big contract. But,
It was
what
gonna
are
be
you
one of
going
my
to do?
questions. Yeah,
Yeah. What are you going to do? Say no?
you're not gonna tell them no.
Yeah. It just kind of pushes you to grow even more to get the percentage of revenue down to where they're not such a large percentage of your income. So that's been a huge game changer for our company, that one account, and it let us start building enough cash to be able to grow and take on other things and take on more clients. So that's been huge right there. So I mean, if a person can, get hooked up with a large client like that, and they can and if that allows them to, build more cash flow and make their business run smoother, then it's really going to help you grow. So, and that's what happened with us. So, as of today, we're doing around 3.5 million. We're trying to push that 4 million mark this year. I think we'll fall a little bit short, but overall it's been pretty good. We also work for another very large pool builder here in Tulsa. They're definitely probably the biggest in Tulsa, one of the biggest probably in the state. And we don't work directly for them. They just hand off our name because, of course, when you get a pool put in, they're ripping out your irrigation and tearing up the sod from the front curb all the way to the backyard. So we come back in and we make things look all nice and pretty, because these people, they've went, a few months with destruction and their dog tracking mud in the house. So by the time we get there, they're, sometimes they're irritated, and I understand, but that's just part of the process. So we try to get in and get out on those jobs within about a week, and some of them are pretty challenging, some of them are pretty big. So that's a large percentage of our landscape division, but it's really both of those two clients alone has helped catapult our business to create a lot more cash flow in order to go take on more single family households and smaller commercial maintenance and things like that. So it's definitely been a blessing.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you still do, like, what services do you offer now? I know it's, fertilization weed control a little bit, right? A little bit of chemical.
Yeah. Fertilization weed control. That's probably our smallest division that we continue to try to grow. We do maintenance, just your everyday, every week mowing. And then, like I said, we do the landscape projects, and the landscape projects encompass, everything from the irrigation install to the plants. We try to sell them the lighting. We try to cross sell anything we can to make that backyard just a complete oasis of their property. And, sometimes the budget doesn't allow, we'll phase those things in. But those three things are the core of our business. And of course, we do some snow removal. And like, I was watching your interview with Tom the other day, and like he said, it's hard in our market to get real good at it, just because it may not snow for 5 years. I know several years ago we had purchased, I think, 3 or 4 plows, and then it literally didn't snow for like 6 or 7 years. So when we broke the plows out, they're brand new still. And, you're by that time you've had some overhead change or some employee changes, and you're trying to retrain guys on how to do that sort of thing. So we're definitely not as good as somebody, in the north, northeast, or wherever it may be that, you guys are getting snow every single week. But we manage it well, for the most part. And that's usually just a cherry on the top, because you can't really plan on it, because you don't know if it's going to happen or not. We do get a lot of ice, so we do have some budget in there for that. We just buy semis and semis of ice melt, because we're covering all these, convenience store locations. We do several banks, some shopping centers, that sort of thing. But when you get a snow event, it's very hectic, just because the municipalities in town, they do their best, but, they're not really totally equipped for that as well. So it's definitely a challenge, but it is, a cherry on top, when you get that revenue.
Do you guys buy your every door direct mail by the semi load too?
Yeah, actually, we do. I know I had mentioned that to you, and I've kind of got an unfair advantage with that just because my
Yeah, that's why I wanted
brother-in-law.
you to talk a little bit about it. It's cool.
Yep. My brother-in-law owns a direct mail company, and they're basically like the broker, and they do direct mail and envelopes for companies like TD Ameritrade and big Fortune 500 companies. So when I submit my little order of 50 to 100,000 mailers, it's nothing, nothing for them. And he doesn't even charge me. I just continue to take care of his property year after year, and I know I'm in the hole.
But you told me like at some point I'm gonna have $100,000 pool cut
Yeah,
project
he's
coming
going to
up.
tell me he wants a pool built or something, and I don't even have a pool at my own house, but I might be putting in one for him, sooner or later. But he's a great guy. He's helped me out a lot with the direct mail thing, which is the only thing that we really use the direct mail on is our fertilization and weed control, and there is a lot of competition here in Tulsa. Years ago, there was a large company that had sold out that I thought would kind of free up the market a little bit. But a lot of those guys, they got acquired by True Green, and of course, we all know what happens after that. Things just the wheels kind of start spinning off, and a lot of those guys either went off and did their own things, or went and became heads of divisions for other landscape companies. And we hired a couple of those guys that were rock stars over at that company. The guy that runs our fertilization weed control division, I mean, he's great at what he does. He's been doing it he did it for them for 10 plus years, and he's been with me for 4 or 5. This may be going on 5 years. So I don't really have to put my hand into that anymore, which is great because we were getting to the point where it was just becoming a distraction for me trying to run, landscape jobs and maintenance. And then all of a sudden weeds are popping up all over the place and timing your pre-emergent applications and so forth. So it was a real struggle until we got that lined out and got somebody in the seat that, knew what they were doing.
Yeah, that's super cool. And then what year did you find SA? And was that your first program that you were on? That's how we met, right?
Yeah, I believe it was SA2. Was SA2 the one that was in
Yeah.
Dallas? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was at SA2. And, I know you talk to Jonathan a lot, but that guy is a genius.
Yeah. Yeah. The cheat code for me.
Yeah. I mean, he's so good at just, breaking things down so simple to make you understand it. I was, years ago, I was laying in bed watching some YouTube videos to try to just, find stuff on lawn care, landscape. And I came across his video, and he's explaining the struggles that he had way back when. And I was like, wow, that's me. Holy crap. So I start digging a little bit deeper and finding out, other things about him. And I find the Service Autopilot CRM, and we sign up. And this was back when it was still Jonathan answering when you would call. And if you needed to get, work something out, a bug or something within the system, he's knocking it out there for you on the keyboard, and he's saying, okay, try it now. So I think we may have only tried it for a year, and not so much because of them. It was just because we didn't really have everything organized and systems in play. And I just didn't I'm not going to say I didn't have the time, because it was probably a deal where, you spend the time where you want to, and then you kind of procrastinate about the things that you should be doing. And that's probably what I did at the time. So we had jumped off of SA, and I think we were just, running things out of QuickBooks at that time. But I believe another 2 years had went by, and then we jumped back in, and then I came to the Service Autopilot events. And that's when, my eyes kind of start opening on how to run a business rather than just getting work done. So, I met you, I met several other guys, obviously that are in different groups. That's where I had met Rick Wallace. I kind of hit it off with him, and we started talking, and he's like, man, I want you to join my peer group. I'm like, peer group for what? And he tells me, and I'm like, I don't know.
Rick's a wild man.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm up for that. I was intimidated. And so I decided, okay, he's talked me into it. And the first meeting that we were going to, it was kind of like a lot of the peer groups where you go and you visit their facilities and check out what they do and how they run their business. And so I show up, and some of these guys have been in the group. It was in one of Jeffrey Scott's peer groups, and some of these guys have been in there for 7 or 8 years. So they've already got things cooking along. And it gets to me to try to start explaining our budget and where our margins are and what we make the most profit on, so on and so on. And I'm going through, and I'm sure my face is bright red. I mean, I can just feel it. I can feel it just start sweating. So I'm rattling stuff off, and they're like, because I'm telling them, oh, we make a killing in landscape. And so the guy's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, yeah, look at these revenue numbers. And so they really opened my eyes to, the vanity of all that. So, moving on, I'm still with that peer group. We're not with Jeffrey Scott anymore. I'm still with that peer group. We still meet twice a year at one of our locations. But yeah, it's that's kind of how the growth started happening.
The aha moment.
Yeah, when I started this, they didn't have YouTube. They didn't,
Not at all.
I remember going to the library or seeing the magazines at Lowe's or whatever, just reading a lot of things I could get my hands on. But nothing compares to getting into a community with other like-minded people that you can share tips and tricks and knowledge with.
And in 2010 is when I started, and then like 2012. Like when I started to find YouTube and Jonathan Potoshnik and the Lawn Care Millionaire, and like you said, you start watching his videos, like, man, this dude's a genius. Like that Lawn Care Millionaire page has made him so much money. It's unreal because that's what he is selling it for Service Autopilot. It's so such a smart idea. And
I need to get on there and see how many views that video has by now.
Oh God, there's a lot, but not as many as you'd think. But it's a different viewership. It's like very intentional people, not just flipping through. Like his watch time, I bet is through the roof though.
Oh, 100%. Well, and the thing that resonated with me is that he also owned a very successful landscape company after going through those struggles. And when I found that out, I mean, much respect to you.
Yeah, so his podcast dropped on Tuesday, and the second half of his podcast drops next Tuesday. So that has been it was a really fun podcast, and he's getting back. I don't even want to ruin it. I don't want to ruin it for everyone. Well, this will actually come out the week after, so I can say it to you. So he's actually back into City Turf.
Is he really?
Which is the coolest thing ever, because for the last 6-7 years that I've known Jonathan, it's just been all at SA. He's like, but someday I'm going to get back there. He's like, I'd like to get back there, but not now. I'm just too busy focused on this thing. And now he's all in at City Turf. Like, they're going to blow the doors off that thing. And I'm so excited to watch him.
Yeah, I can't imagine where they'll go.
Yeah, it's fun talking to him and picking his brain and just how he operates and how he thinks. And when you ask him a question, he looks at you for a second, and then he asks you a question back. Like, his mind is so fast and processes so fast, and the information that he's able to retain is incredible. Like it's almost unfair. It's unreal. He's just a super sharp guy and very humble. Like willing to always help you, give back. I mean, I send him a text message with a question, and I shit you not, I'll get an 8-minute voice recording from him of what he's thinking. I'm like, you could have just sent me a text back. That's how he operates. It's so in depth, and so it makes it so easy. And I love that guy. I could go on for hours, but shout out to JP, which I think everyone does. But it's super awesome to have him on our side for sure. But I mean, he paved the way for us and most of us.
Well, and then when I found out that he also has coaches.
Dan Kennedy is one of them. He's a big Dan Kennedy guy.
Yep. And when he was telling us, hey, you guys are paying X dollars for, monthly coaching, he says,
he's still in peer groups. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's telling us, the kind of money he's spending for coaching. And I'm like, whoa, this works.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said this a zillion times on here, it's just a cheat code, like, why not just go pay those people? If you're struggling, just go ask the questions. Like I told you a story about what happened yesterday, right? It's like, sometimes it's just the hardest thing is just to set pride aside and it's like, I don't know everything. I need help. Surround yourself with those people who have the answers or been through it before, that you can make one phone call that can fix your problem in 5 minutes instead of going through for the next 2 years.
Yeah. And it also, it helps our industry. And, if we're all doing well, prices can get raised, the bar gets raised, and it helps all of us. It's not like, I got to keep this, hidden and keep all this knowledge to myself. I mean, if you can make the industry, excel, why not do it? It helps us all.
Absolutely. That's the whole reason for the podcast, right? And it's crazy the amount of feedback that I get from the podcast on a daily basis. Like, people found it and been listening to it. Like, I sold a Z spray like this spring to someone, and they didn't know me. They knew who I was, but didn't know who I was. And then they realized like I had the podcast. They reached back, oh my God, I didn't know that was you. That's so cool. Like, you helped the industry. Like, I've been listening to you forever. Like, it was super cool. Like, it's like, that's what we're here to do, though. And that's why I have the interviews with guys like yourself that are doing big things. And we all came from the same place. Like, we were just solo guys running the truck, didn't have a clue what we were doing. And you mentioned earlier, like, when you're coming up, like, did I make the right decision? Shit, should I keep doing this? Like, I haven't made money. It's been 3 years. Like, do I keep going through this? Like, I'll see all my friends graduating college or going to get jobs or getting successful, but here I am still grinding, not making any money or whatever, And like, am I ever going to make it? Am I ever going to make it? So I remember thinking those thoughts. Like, I swear to God, I shit you not, Josh. I remember taking a magic 8-ball, shaking it in my hand. And I was like, will I ever hit $100,000 in revenue?
I've done it.
It's like, yes. And I was like, I do it again. Like, will I ever hit $1 million in revenue? Like, a true story. Like, will I ever make it? So it's just cool. Like, we all go through those challenges. So surrounding yourself with people like yourselves, like they all go through this stuff, like.
Yeah, I was very impressed when I saw you start Pump, because you came out with like some little clips and stuff in the beginning. And then when I saw you start that first podcast, I was like, man, he's got some cojones, because, I mean, I've done tons of videos for tutorials and things like that, but doing the podcast, I mean, it takes some effort and it takes time.
Yeah, it's a job, and like I said, I have a good team behind me. I got Sofia. She's always on here with me. She supports me. She helps me a lot. I just add her to, my Gmail. I send off the invitation so she knows how to schedule, and she does the rest from there. So like, her and Dalton's team, they've been there to support me a long way. So they make my job easy. I just show up and do the interviews. It's super cool. But like, when we are going through SA Academy, and we were all leaving, and it was like, someone should start a podcast. Someone should start a podcast. And no one was starting a podcast. I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to go start a podcast and see what happens. I have a good network. I remember making a list on my whiteboard right in front of me. I'll go through my contacts, my Facebook, my Instagram, my numbers that I had on my phone. I had 150 names. I'm like, well, let's roll, Like, that's a great start. And I still haven't even gotten through that list. And we have like, I think 2 people, maybe 3, Sofia, now at this point, who have came back for a second one for like an update. Jonathan being one of them. That was pretty cool. But other than that, it's been new people every single time, which is awesome.
Do you think you'll always keep it within the service industry?
No, I love that you mentioned that, because there's so many things that I'd love to talk about. And it's my podcast. I can do whatever I want. But it's like, I'm trying to keep it service business. So like, the people who are listening, but there's so many things like that I would like to learn. And that's what I'm here to do too, that other people need to learn. Like, one thing I have written down on my notes today for you is your health. And like, you built the gym inside your shop, and we'll get to that later on. But it's like, I'd love to bring experts in on the health and how people can improve their health and their diet, and bring on people like that. So like, it's like a wide community. So I wouldn't say that it's just going to be specific to the service industry, but maybe entrepreneurship as a whole. You know what I mean? Because like, there's different areas of life that we all need to be better in, and health's one of the biggest things that people struggle with. Like coming up, like you're working full time, you're eating shitty food at Quick Trip. Not that it's shitty food, but you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Grabbing the donuts on the way to the first
grabbing
bar.
The donuts, you're grabbing the pop, you're in a hurry, you're just trying to work, and you get home, you're burned out. The next thing, then you're drinking at night or whatever it may be. Like, everyone has their addictions. I've been through that shit before. Go home and have a beer. It's like 2 beers. That's like, oh, whatever. And then you put on weight, and it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. And a lot of us go through it. So yeah, I think like just talking to those people too, and bringing them on. And I think it's good for everyone to hear, So I guess we can just like transition right from there, because obviously your shop's beautiful. You just built it. There's a lot going on there. Like the gym is cool. Like, yeah. What year did you guys build that, and how did that come about?
We started built. We used to be about a mile and a half from the location we're at now, and I had tried several times to purchase the building that we were in, but the gentleman that owned it, he has gazillions of dollars, and they really had zero interest in selling it because they have a little refinery fill up station right next to that spot, which was pretty cool because we could just pull out of our gravel lot, pull next door, fill up with diesel or gas or whatever it may be, and be on our way. So that was a pretty good relationship there. But anyway, they didn't want to sell, and I just happened to I'd been looking online, and everything I'm finding I couldn't afford, and I happened to drive down the access road right here in front of the highway, and I saw a big commercial real estate sign in front of this property, and all it was just a single story house that had 4 garage bays on it, and it's like 4,000 square feet plus the 4 garages. So I was like, okay, well that's
The office now is what was there.
yep, that's all that was here. And but then there was a big chunk of grass, a big chunk of land just to the side of it, and had a real nice entrance right there off the highway. You could see our facility from the highway. So I thought, man, that'd be awesome advertising from all the traffic that comes through here. And I call about it, and I think they wanted, I believe, like, I don't know, 325, I think it was. This was probably 7 years ago. And I had I shot back at them, I think like 260, 265, and they took it immediately.
We were saying like, damn it.
Yeah, I'm thinking, did I leave 50 grand on the table? What's the deal? Well, come to find out, the guy that owned it lived out of state, and he had just been leasing it out to some storm chasing like roofers. And they had, when we bought this place, it was pretty disgusting. I mean, we gutted everything down to basically the studs. I mean, they had mattresses in here, and then it had been left abandoned for I don't even know how long. And somebody had stole the HVAC units out of the property. And so before we had even entertained buying it, all that stuff had been replaced. So we've got, brand new AC units, heater units, so on and so forth. So that was a big cost upgrade that I didn't have to pay for. And, fast forward a little bit, we end up getting the property, and I start calling contractors to see how much it would be to build a building. And I thank God every day these days that we did it when we did it, because the way, interest rates are now, and as expensive as everything is, it would be tough to build the kind of.
So this is pre-COVID, right?
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. This was, I believe 2016. Yeah, I believe so. And, so we end up moving forward, getting a note on the building, building the facility. And ever since then, we've just added a little bit of something every year. And it's been great. I get compliments all the time on it, because everybody sees it. And
it's so clean looking.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm pretty OCD about that kind of stuff. My guys, my guys get a little irritated because I tell them, you should be able to eat lunch off the floor of the shop. And they look at me, like I'm crazy. But, if you just keep it up, and, each morning when the crews come in, there's always a few guys that come in a little bit early. They sweep out the shop floor. And, we've got a rule that once a week, everybody has to wash their trucks. And, and people recognize that stuff. We get complimented on that sort of thing all the time. We've wrapped all our vehicles, for marketing reasons. Back when, they had the PPP money, we didn't really need the cash for payroll. So we just decided, the money that we got, we would kind of funnel into marketing. So we ran a ton of billboards and some direct mail, and really dumped a lot of money into marketing. And the billboards, they did okay for brand recognition, but, it's hard to know if they're really working, because a lot of times when people call, they'll tell you they don't remember how they got your name or whatever. Sometimes they'll tell you they saw it on a billboard, but a lot of it's just for guerrilla marketing and brand recognition. So I decide that, why not just wrap our trucks? It's a rolling billboard that you only have to pay for once. I mean, you probably should rip those wraps off every 5 years or so. but it's considerably cheaper than, running a billboard for $1,500-$1,800 a month, when you can get a wrap for, $3,500, $4,000, and keep it on there for multiple years. It's kind of a no-brainer. And then with us doing those convenience stores that get a ton of traffic, people are seeing our trucks there. The property looks nice, and it's been a great marketing thing from us on the wraps. But yeah, we love the facility, and that's also when I really saw a jump in growth, because people that come to, there are people that are searching the market for a job. They want to know they're going to work somewhere that's got a nice facility, somewhere they can have stability. They don't want to, show up. I just don't think you're going to get a top tier employee if you don't have a presentable operation. And you don't have to have a massive facility. You don't even have to have which our facility isn't huge. You don't even have to have what we have, but it just needs to be presentable, and you need to have some pride in it. And that's really when I started, growing within hiring, because, people saw that, we had some stability just from the look of our facility.
Do you wish you had built bigger?
Yes and no. I mean, we're eyeballing some property on this same street for possibly moving some storage yards into or something. Eventually, I'd love to own the whole road and just lease, properties out. But no, I mean, it works for what we have now. But I mean, we use every inch of it. We own 2 more acres on the backside of the property, but there's a creek that runs through it. So it would take a lot of money to clear that, and to get civil engineering involved and to develop that. So it'd be expensive, but we're not quite there yet.
Cool. And when I was down there, you guys were in the process of setting up some walls for another new building. I think it was for like the chemical cage or something like that.
Yeah, no, we're it's basically just like a red iron, storage type building that we're going to store all our. We've got, I don't know, 8 or 10 snow plows, that just sit out in the sun. I mean, you put tarps on them, but those don't last. So I'd like to try to keep as much as we can covered, just so it holds up. So we're just building that little spot for storage, basically.
I thought you were just gonna move the chemical cage over there so you could build a bigger gym.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So when did you started taking your health seriously, and then when did you put the gym in?
So I've always been really into working out, and even when I was younger, I was even bigger into it. I wanted to be this big muscled up guy. But
And you're a big dude as it is. What are you, 6'3", 6'4"?
it's 6'2". I mean,
Everyone just looks tall to me. So,
but I've always, worked out, even back in high school. When I came over to football from basketball, the head coach had asked me, where have you been? Why have you not already been playing football? And I was just like, basketball was my passion. And, before I got out of high school, I wanted to see if I could play football or not. So when we went out and started doing the preseason training and stuff, I'm beating a lot of these guys in drills and definitely in the endurance drills, because, in basketball practice, we ran our tails off. But I'd always been real big into lifting weights. Even as a kid, when I was probably 12 years old, there was a guy across the street from me that worked out in his garage every day. And he gave me a workout bench and just kind of took me under his wing, showed me how to do a lot of things. And ever since then, I just kind of stuck with it. And there'd be times that I'd, take a break from working out or whatever. But, fast forward to when I get married, my wife is she used to be a school teacher, a special ed teacher, but she also had taught group fitness classes, and then also spin classes. So, we're kind of like-minded when it comes to that. She's way more into it than I am. I mean, she literally works out probably 4 hours a day, because she teaches some online workout classes with a group that she started back in COVID, because they were shutting all the gyms and things down. So she took it upon herself to start this Facebook page to just allow people to come on for 30 or 40 bucks a month. And she works out with them every day online. You just get a spot in your room and she teaches it. They just follow along with her. So it's always been kind of a staple of our household, just to kind of stay healthy, stay in shape. She's real big on eating clean. So, you're not going to find a lot of junk food in our house. And she She goes on her rants even with our kids because, they'll go to school and seems like every day they got a pizza party or somebody brought cupcakes or whatever. And she's like, good God, how much sugar do these kids eat? And I mean, that's a lot of America. And I also believe that, if you stay in shape and you stay looking good, that says a lot about yourself when you go meet with a client. You know, if you've got your shirt tucked in and you don't look sloppy and you've got, just a decent polo with your logo on it, I mean, fix your hair, brush your teeth. I mean, it's pretty simple.
Yeah. And let's be honest with you, the better you look, the more you're going to sell.
Absolutely. I mean, if one guy shows up that, has ripped up jeans and, just unpresentable versus the guy that shows up in a clean truck and that takes care of himself, I mean, 9 times out of 10, they're going to pick.
I mean, it projects a lot of how you take care of yourself and how you take care of your company.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see that a lot in our industry. We were talking earlier about, the bar being set kind of low in this industry, and it's coming up because of people like Jonathan, and a lot of people that's helping educate it. But, it's just, you need to look presentable to people and act like you actually care about the business that you're running. And,
answer your phone.
Yeah, and answer your phone.
And you do those two things and you're 50% ahead of everyone else already.
Yeah, answer your phone and just, tuck your shirt in and you could be making $1 million a year in no time.
For real. When did you find PBD?
Yeah, so we're both big PBD fans. I mean, that guy is a freaking rock star. He that's Tom calling me right now.
Nice. Just send him a picture. Tell him you're busy with me.
And so I started following that Valuetainment channel probably around COVID, probably around 2019. Might have been a little bit earlier than that, but I was just mesmerized by all the videos that he would do in front of the blackboard, that he had hanging there.
Even before that was like the 2 minutes with Pat.
Yes. And I started following him back then and then just kind of watched him progress, kind of like what you're doing right now. And, I remember when he started his podcast, I mean, I remember them having a celebration when they hit 100,000 subs. And then yesterday I looked and they were like 2.1, 2.2 million.
Yeah. Like he posted some of the stats, like he compares Valuetainment to like Fox News. It's like, they're like blow Fox News out of the water with views, and it's cool.
And then anymore, like, shoot, he's been on Fox News and Pierce Morgan and all this, and I've just watched him blow up over the last 5 years. And as you know, I mean, I go down for some of their events. We went down for the first live podcast that they had.
Yeah, how was that?
That was really, really, really cool because they didn't really know how it was going to turn out. So it was kind of a learning experience for everybody, but it went smooth as it could be. And, you showed up to the studio and you see all the stuff that you see on the podcast, which is kind of surreal. And I mean, you see the Ferraris sitting out in front of the office and
matching Ferraris.
Yeah. And then when, of course, we bought the VIP ticket or whatever. And so we got to go to the cigar lounge. And I mean, he couldn't have been nicer to the people that were there. I mean, him and his wife both stood there and talked to my wife and I for a good 20 minutes, just about life, just about, raising kids and things that we go through every day. And then I spent some more time sitting with him and another group of guys. And, he's kind of like Jonathan. He genuinely cares about people. He genuinely cares about this country.
Yeah, absolutely.
I couldn't be a bigger fan of somebody like that.
Yeah, and that I go to a lot of events too, and going to the Vault coming up here in a month, roughly September 4th or whatever it is, 4th through 9th, something like 7th through 9th, I don't know, somewhere in there. And I did the same thing about the CEO ticket last year for this year. So you get to do all the after parties. Last year they went to their house afterwards. You get to hang out with PBD every single night afterwards. They have a CEO mastermind the night before. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I think the thing I learned the most as far as his events is I had came across one of his ads where you could purchase, because you were at this event because I remembered seeing you in the crowd, because it kind of threw me off. I was like, holy crap, there's Jonas. And I think you even answered a question, but it was the SLS event. And yeah, I mean, I still go back to that recording even today. I'll go back and look over things just because there's such valuable information.
Yeah, and he's got a good memory. He's like, hey, I remember you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what I learned at those events was they have like general admission, then platinum, then they have like CEO, whatever, right? And they have different levels. And I've been going for a few years, and the general over the last couple of years, I took, I guess, a little slow. I thought about it, but we just go and hang out and learn and just pay to go. And what I realized is when they do these group collaboration. So they'll put up a problem on the board, what they're working on, and then you and your group have to go solve it. What I noticed is that when I was in those groups with the people, I was the one solving all the questions every single time. I'm like, well, this is dumb. I don't want to be the one teaching here. Like, I want to be the one learning. So obviously, the more you pay, the further up, the smarter the people get. So I'm just going to go rub shoulders with those guys because I want to be the one learning from those guys that are top tier CEOs. So that's probably one of my biggest takeaways of the last few years. They're a lot of fun. The food's always great. The people are awesome. We learn a ton. We have 17 of us going this year. So I'm super excited about that. Hopefully we get a shout out there. I heard that Andy Elliott has 44. I was like, damn it, of course he does.
Yeah, see, I didn't even realize Andy Elliott was going until I saw that podcast the other day. PBD was on Andy Elliott.
So last year he was there too. We got pictures together. Andy's a cool dude too. But he got up on stage and gave PBD a $40,000 watch. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, he's actually from Oklahoma. I believe Oklahoma City.
Yeah, he is. He in fact, we have a mutual friend, Brandon. They went to school together. They graduated the same class. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's nuts.
It's a small world, hey?
Yeah, that guy's blown up too.
Yeah, wild. Same thing. He was in the car industry. Lots of stories there, and then now he's doing sales. And I love what he does though. Like the whole Elliott Army thing, bringing in dudes that are jacked, like just building a brand that I want to be excited to be there. Like I love it. You know what I mean? It's cool. And like I said, he's building a brand, and he built that new house, and yeah, he's cool. He's a big PBD fan. PBD's his mentor, and obviously it works. He's got to pay to play.
100%.
Yeah. So what are the next 5 years look like for you, Josh? What are your plans?
Just more growth, grow. I mean, this year we're kind of buttoning things up and trying to do more cross selling and trying to grab some of those dollars that are already sitting there on the table for us. I think a lot of people look past the clients that they already have by chasing, new clients, because you and I both know it doesn't sometimes cost zero to create more revenue with the clients that you already have versus spending, $50, $150, $200, whatever it may be to acquire a client. I mean, why don't you pick up some of those dollars, that are already on the table instead of chasing the dimes,
Yeah, they already trust you, right?
Yeah, we're trying to focus a little bit more on that this year because we, like I said, we do a lot of those big landscape projects, and then we would, they'd be thrilled and happy with us, give us a good Google review, but then we wouldn't ask them to take on their maintenance. And, we would, hit and miss, but we're trying to roll through that traction model and get everything into a systematized, routine to where it's just automatic every single time. Once the invoice is sent, once you go do that job walkthrough, hit them up about their maintenance, express to them, hey, you just spent 50 grand on this project. Why not take care of it for, a few $100? So we're trying to upsell a lot of that stuff. And then we're always trying to grow our weed control division, just because, who knows, one of these days we might want to sell this place, and companies that have residual revenue, are worth a whole lot more money than companies that, just do one-off projects.
When you run your every door direct mail campaigns, have you had success with it?
It's been, this past year wasn't as good as the years before. The year that, we had COVID, like in the 2020 time period, I mean, knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever see those numbers again, though.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, we got very spoiled, but a lot of it is just targeting the right markets, the neighborhoods that you're already in. In fact, we started something this year where we got door hangers for every single crew. but each crew's door hanger has a different the door hangers look the same, but the QR codes on those door hangers are different. And then those crews get incentivized for every time that door hanger gets scanned. And it doesn't have to be a sell. They get incentivized just for it being scanned. And we use the product flow code, and it manages where all those are coming from. And I tell them, I said, it's on us as managers to sell the work. It's not up to you guys to sell the work. So I'm not going to penalize them because we're dropping the ball, closing the sale. I want them putting those door hangers, doing the 9 rounds, the things like we've learned in service autopilot, 3 across the street, 3 next door, and 3 on the other side. And each time those get scanned, it builds up revenue for that crew to make a little bit extra incentive. And one guy can go hang those 9 door hangers in 2 minutes while a guy's blowing a yard off. It's pretty simple. So that's something that we've started this year that seems to, really be helping. But it's a pretty competitive market where we have. So you kind of got to always find those little edges and little things that other guys haven't even thought about doing that are creative. I mean, you guys do it with the pest control, even the door knocking. There's not very many people that door knock anymore, because they're intimidated about it. I mean, people can sit here and say all day long that it doesn't work, but it's like, how much have you really tried? You knocked on 3 doors, you got, the door shut in your face, so you give up and you just go around telling people it doesn't work.
Or they like you and I talked about it at lunch that day. It was like, well, what were you doing when you first started? Oh, like you said, I was out knocking doors. And then it's like, well, why did you stop? You're like, oh shit, you're right, because you get a little bit more money in your pocket, right? It's easier just to throw money at Facebook and Google,
And maybe it's that you were a little more fearless then too. You didn't have the ego.
Yeah, and you didn't have a choice. You had no customers. You had no resources, but you had a ton of time.
Yep. And if you really notice the successful door knocking companies, it's a lot of young guys. They don't have the attitude of I'm too good for that. They've got the hustle.
And they're also making really good money too.
Very good money. Every time one of them knocks on my door, I just straight up tell them, hey, we do this ourselves, but what do you guys go through on your training? I just pump them full of questions because I learned something from that.
Yeah, they're good. Like they're sharp, they're quick on their feet. They're very, very skilled individuals. And they're highly paid.
Yeah, I ask them, how long do you guys go through training? What's a training process look like? And just try to get those little nuggets. I mean, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. So outside of your every door direct mail, postcards, door hangers, online, do you guys do anything outside the box for marketing that will help the listeners?
No, I mean, honestly, the biggest deal for us is probably the vehicle wraps. The vehicle wraps go out every single day and they're all over town. And people that I see constantly, they literally think we've got 75, 80 trucks running around here. And we don't. I mean, we only got a dozen crews, running around every day. But when you see those bright green wrapped, clean trucks rolling around, people just get it stuck in their head and they think they see you all the time. And Tulsa's not a huge market, but
it's big. you come from here. It's big. Like I told you this morning, I had to drive 2 hours to find a site one this morning.
Right. Yeah. And here in Tulsa, literally everything's 20 minutes from anywhere you're at. So it makes it nice.
Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful country. I know we're wrapping up here. I said keep about an hour. It's already been over that. I'll end with the last question I was asked. What are you most proud of, Josh?
Definitely my people, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I mean, they've helped me get to where I'm at. And shoot, I've still got the very first employee that I hired 24 years ago.
I do too. Mine's only like 12 years, but he's still here.
Right. And that says a lot. It says that you definitely take care of them, or they wouldn't have stayed with you that long. And we're genuinely, we've got a very good culture here. And we always say that we're a family because, as you know, I mean, you spend more time at work with these people than you do your own family. And so, treat that person like you would treat your own mother, your own brother, whatever it may be, and actually care about them. If they're going through something, spend some time to talk to them about it. See if they want to open up, see if they need help, maybe call them in the evening and ask them, what's going on away from the other guys. Keep those conversations private, but just show them that you care. I think even, celebrating each of their birthdays when it's, put it in your phone calendar when all their birthdays are. And then when that morning they show up and you've got balloons and cupcakes and stuff and you're recognizing them, man, that says everything about.
Yeah. I have every single one of our employees. We have a system now at this point, but before I just put them in my phone. Same thing. But now we have a system that everyone goes into, so I get notifications or helps remind me so I don't forget. But yeah, it goes such a long way, and people won't care until they know you care. And once they realize that, hey, like you genuinely care about me as a person, they'll run through a wall with you, and that's how you build a culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a business coach as well, and he came down 2 months ago, and he was going through asking everybody, what do they enjoy about working here? And they all mentioned that I, as the owner, care about them, so that made me feel good that, they do recognize those things. Sometimes us as owners, they think, oh, you're just telling them happy birthday. They don't really care, but they do. They genuinely do. I mean, just tell them they're doing a good job.
So I was at a wedding on Saturday, and one of my friends, business owner, pulled me outside. This is just a funny story, by the way. Pulled me outside, and some random girl walks outside. She's a nurse, and she had the answers to everything. She's like, all you got to do is just buy everyone donuts. So for everyone that's listening, just go buy your Cruz donuts and you'll solve all your problems.
We do that too. We do. Don't tell my wife, but we do that too.
Yeah, I won't tell her. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you joining us today. It's been a pleasure. Enjoy your friendship. I love watching what you're doing. So keep it up, and I'm sure we'll chat again soon. I know I'll be down in Tulsa this fall, so I'll definitely come visit you again.
Yeah, let's do it. And congratulations on all the success that you've had with the podcast, man. Keep it up. It's awesome.
Appreciate it. But just because, guys like yourself and girls, you're all rock stars. So it elevates the entire industry. So it's cool.
Absolutely.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, Jonas.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to another episode of Pest Control Millionaire. We don't charge any money for the show, obviously, but the podcast isn't free. You can pay for the podcast by sharing it with your friends and your family. So please like and subscribe and give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. These things make a huge difference for us. If you have any specific questions you want answered about the business or your life by me or my guest, send an email to info@pestcontrolmillionaire.com. And if you want to get in touch with me about any personal business coaching, check out our website at www.pestcontrolmillionaire.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you guys again on the next one.